Are you ready for an unbelievable story? This was recounted to me by Mr. J. So I knew he served in the Army. So I asked about it. And he said, well, let me tell you a story of what happened. The year is 1954, and it's in rural South Carolina. And Mr. J is able to drive back then. It didn't take much to have a driver's license. So basically, there was an Army base near, and his brother had gone into the Army. So his brother had come home, and he was going to give his brother a ride back to the base to go back on duty. And there was another couple officers or guys there who needed a ride also. Now, Mr. J is an African American, and the other guy just happened to be a non-African American, and they all get in the car, and they're driving down the road, head toward the base. And all of a sudden, car pulls in behind them, the lights come on. It's the local sheriff. He pulls them all over and comes to Mr. J, who's driving. And the other guys say, yeah, well, he's young, but he's just taking us to the bases. We're going back for duty. And he's going back home. One-way trip, no problem. So the sheriff said, all right, well, give me your driver's license anyway. So he takes all their IDs, and they had their Army IDs. He gave them back his IDs, but apparently the sheriff kept Mr. J's ID. It wasn't a picture ID like we have today. It was probably just a card with some information written on it. So Mr. J was happy. He dropped him off. He went on back home. Well, he says the next week or so, he gets a knock at his door. And it's an Army guy delivering a letter with his name on it. His mom says, what's this about? He says, hey, you read the letter, tell him you better be there. Mr. J comes in, his mom says, what's this? They open the letter. It's orders for him to report to Fort Jackson for duty. He has been put in the Army. He never filled out an application. He never wanted to be in the Army. He wasn't even really old enough yet. Long story short, apparently the sheriff had taken his ID, and this sheriff was getting these young boys' IDs, giving it to the Army, and these guys were being conscripted. Shanghaied, for lack of a better word. That back in the days, these sailors would go, or guys would go get in drunken revelry parties with sailors, and they'd wake up on a ship out to sea. They can't get back to land. Hey, well, you're working on the ship now until we get to land again. And they would just, for lack of a better word, steal, slave, indentured service, whatever you call these dudes. Well, here we are in modern day America, and Mr. J has to report to the Army or be in trouble. So my mouth is open. Like, what did you do? He said, well, I went to the Army. He reported. He literally goes through basic training, he's deployed, and serves time. Mr. J served honorably, honorable discharge. You know what he said right there? He goes, I know it sounds crazy, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Turned my life around. He didn't want it. He didn't expect it. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you. Now, we all go to the end of that, plans to prosper and give you, but the first part just says, I have plans for you. And a lot of times we don't see it. Mr. J couldn't see it. He surely didn't see his life going into the Army. He hadn't planned that. Mr. J now is 86 years old, and I befriended him at the gym. He still goes to the gym regularly and works out. And he says it was that Army background that got his diet, that got him exercising, got discipline. He went on to live a very, very prolific and prosperous career, even after the Army, and his careers and the things that he did to meet presidents and do all these great things. It all started there. Say this with me, say your name, and then repeat these words. I am going to see it through to see just what the Lord will do. I'm going to see it through to see just what the Lord will do. You got to see it through. You got to hold on to the end. Because even though it may be Shanghai, it's probably going to end up to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Because God has a plan for you. Just hold on. Hold on, and you will overcome.